Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we are getting hyper-focused on Objective 2.3 for the Nutanix NCP-MCI 7.5 certification. We're talking Nutanix versus non-Nutanix deployments and the specific rules around multiple Prism Central instances. We're going to break down the exact architectural limits, how the install workflows differ, and what you absolutely need to know to pass. This is totally foundational knowledge for any infrastructure admin, and trust me, they test this heavily on the exam. So grab your notes, get comfortable, and let's get you completely ready for test day.
Here's our quick game plan for today. We'll hit 1. Why this subtopic matters. 2. The non-Nutanix install workflow. 3. Scale limitations. 4. Multiple PCIS instances. 5. Common exam traps. And 6. Those key facts you really need to memorize.
Now, before we get too deep into the weeds, let's just make sure we're speaking the exact same language. So let's quickly review these acronyms. PC is Prism Central, that's your multi-cluster management plane. PE is Prism Element for managing a single cluster. AOS is the Acropolis operating system, basically the core storage fabric. AHV is the Acropolis hypervisor, which is Nutanix's native hypervisor. And finally, LCM is the lifecycle manager, which is what we use for crucial upgrades. Keep these locked in your mind as we go.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, why this subtopic matters, specifically looking at architectural constraints. Here's the deal. If you mess up your initial deployment topology, you might permanently lock yourself out of some incredibly powerful scale-out capabilities. Nutanix explicitly tests you on this, because a misconfigured foundation literally limits the entire future of that data center environment. If you deploy Prism Central outside of the native Nutanix ecosystem, you severely restrict what that management plane can actually do. And as an infrastructure admin, you need to know exactly what you're sacrificing before you ever click deploy.
Moving right along to Section 2, the non-Nutanix install workflow and its key differences. This is where things really start to diverge. If you're in a native Nutanix environment, it's an absolute breeze. You get a seamless, one-click deployment straight from Prism Element, using specific binary.tar and metadata.json files. You just point the system to the files, and it handles the rest. But if you're deploying into a non-Nutanix ESXi environment, you can't use those files at all. Instead, you're forced to do a manual deployment using a completely different downloaded OVA file. If you do find yourself deploying on non-Nutanix ESXi, you've got to memorize this exact manual flow for the exam. First, download that specific OVA file. Second, deploy it manually within your ESXi host. Third, because you don't have that native automation anymore, you literally have to SSH directly into the new Prism Central VM. And finally, and pay attention because this is a highly testable fact, you must manually execute the Setup 3-Tiers CLI tool to actually configure the environment. That is a massive difference from the automated one-click Nutanix method. Which brings us to Section 3, non-Nutanix scale limitations in terms of size and features. Let's put this into a real-world scenario, the exact kind of edge case they love to throw at you on the exam. Imagine you're the admin, and out of nowhere, you suddenly need massive compute resources for advanced features like flow virtual networking or intelligent ops, but you're on a non-Nutanix setup. Can you just scale your deployment up to a large size to handle the load? The short answer, no way. Absolutely not. Without that native underlying AOS fabric and microservices integration, your non-Nutanix Prism Central is permanently locked to a single, small VM instance. You can't expand it to a large size, and you certainly cannot scale it out to a 3 VM high availability architecture. It's a strict architectural boundary. End of story. And because you're permanently locked into that small instance footprint, the sacrifices are, frankly, pretty massive. You completely lose Prism Central Backup and Restore, or PCBR. You lose native Nutanix disaster recovery capabilities. You're locked out of Nutanix Cloud Manager, or NCM. And you totally lose flow network security and virtual networking. Deploying on ESXi is a very restrictive choice. And for the exam, you need to know exactly which features get dropped.
Let's shift gears now to Section 4. Multiple PC instances, and how that architecture actually works.
So a single Prism Element cluster actually has plenty of underlying compute and storage muscle to act as the host for multiple, totally distinct Prism Central VMs. You can spin up several of them on just one physical cluster. But there is a huge catch when it comes to how those instances are actually managed. Here's another scenario for you. Say you're the admin hosting 3 separate, distinct Prism Central management planes on one single underlying Prism Element cluster. The question is,
Can your host cluster report to and be managed by all three of those instances at the same time? Listen closely because this is the golden rule you have to know. You can host many, but register only one. No matter how many Prism Central VMs physically live on that cluster, that underlying Prism element can only ever be registered to and managed by one single Prism Central instance at any given time. It's basically strict monogamy for management. The other PC VMs, they just treat that cluster as raw compute and storage resources, nothing more. Host many, register one. Commit that to memory.
Okay, moving to Section 5, common exam traps and tricky edge cases to watch out for.
Picture this. You're taking the exam, and you're tasked with upgrading that restrictive non-Nutanix ESXi deployment. You have the upgrade files ready to go. What is the correct supported method to actually apply that binary?
Do not fall for the direct upload trap. Direct upload upgrades will flat out fail outside of native Nutanix environments. You are strictly required to use the Lifecycle Manager, LCM, navigating through the admin center to get that upgrade done. If the exam tries to tempt you with direct upload for an ESXi deployment, remember that it's a trap.
Here are a few more red flags they absolutely love to test you on. First, if you ever unregister a Prism element from a Prism Central instance, it is a permanent divorce. You cannot just simply re-register it to that exact same PC instance later. You'd have to pair it to a completely different PC instance. Second, if you are working in that non-Nutanix ESXi environment, you absolutely must keep the vSAN health service enabled during your deployments and upgrades. Do not turn it off. Finally, Section 6, key facts to memorize. This is your test day summary. I highly recommend taking a mental picture of this cheat sheet, or, literally just take a screenshot right now. It perfectly maps out the fundamental divides. Let's recap. Install files, .tar and .json for Nutanix, but OVA for ESXi. Maximum size, X large with scale-out capabilities for Nutanix, but strictly locked to small for ESXi. And upgrades, native gives you one-click direct upload or LCM, while ESXi relies entirely on LCM. This summary right here is your roadmap to passing Objective 2.3. So to wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to really chew on as you study. When you look at these severe limitations on that ESXi side, no scale-out, no disaster recovery, no advanced flow networking, does it ever truly make sense to separate your management plane from the native AOS fabric? Understanding the why behind these limitations isn't just about memorizing facts. It's exactly what will get you a passing score on the exam. Good luck with your studying and keep crushing those infrastructure goals.